Hi, this is Miss Lancaster. I'm just doing a quick little video to discuss some of the key ideas of Chapter 1. This is the social problems class, and I know that some of you have taken sociology and some of you have not. I want, first off, for those of you who have taken sociology before, a lot of this is we are really just digging deep into some of the issues that you may have learned a little bit about in your sociology class. But if you have not taken a sociology class, you should not be fearful of this course material. This is still an intro level sociology class. We just spend a little bit more time looking specifically at certain social problems. So I want to start off by, first off, let's just talk about what sociology is. It's the systematic scientific study of our social world. So basically what we're looking at is social life, social groups, the overall social world as a big picture. So we're looking at the structure of society, what holds society together, the institutions, which are the large-scale organizations that exist in our society, the social units. Those are our small groups, the groups that are part of us. But our institutions are also social units. They're just the largest of them. Okay, so we're looking at the interconnectedness of all of that. We're going to look at the individual and the statuses that we all have, which are really just the positions that we have, and then how those different aspects of our social world impact us. Okay, so what is a social problem? Social problems can be defined as a social condition, an event, or a pattern of behavior that negatively affects the well-being of a significant number of people or a number of significant people. Okay, the reality is a social problem is something that enough individuals or enough individuals in power or in a position of a higher status position feel needs to be changed or ameliorated. What does that mean? It needs to be fixed, made a little better in whatever situation it is. Okay. So when we're talking about social problems, using the scientific method, because this is a social science class, we will look at both the quantitative and the qualitative aspects. We will look at the subjective and the objective aspects of society. Okay, so when we talk about a social problem, there is the subjective piece. That's really kind of the feelings, the thoughts, the concerns about our problems, right? About a social problem. What is a social problem? What are those things that we're concerned about, right? Why are we concerned about it? So when we talk about the subjective piece, it is really about how people define a problem, whether or not we define it as a problem to ourselves or to others. Again, as we defined it, it negatively affects a significant number of people or a number of significant people, okay? So then the objective aspects of a social problem are the concrete numerical pieces, the prevalence of the problem, okay? So as we go through the various chapters, we'll be kind of looking at that. You'll see some statistics, you'll see some aspects of it. But what I understand is that both pieces are very, very important in understanding and shaping the way society views social problems, okay? So just kind of getting that frame of mind in there, okay? Now I want to share a picture that I would normally share in class to get you kind of really thinking about both the subjective and the objective aspects. I'm going to share the deadly facts of water. So let me click on this and I'm going to share it now. Okay, so this image, if it's not big enough, you can use the thing off to the side to make it bigger. But these are all facts. So these are all objective, concrete things. However, and how we look at it, we can subjectively determine whether this is something that we really need to fear water. Because if we took this into consideration, some of these deadly facts about water would make us really be fearful of it. Okay, so I want us to kind of remember that sometimes things can be framed in ways to make us fearful of a problem that may not be a problem in the big scheme of things. Okay, so first off, the first fact is, let me get my pointer going. The first fact is water can be chemically synthesized by burning rocket fuel. Of course. Is that going to make us not want to drink it? Fact. Water is one of the primary ingredients in herbicides and pesticides. Again, herbicides and pesticides can be very deadly if ingested. Fact. Overconsumption can cause temporary deafness, hair loss, and even death. Okay. Fact. Water is the leading cause of drowning. Makes us very, very fearful of it, right? 100% of people exposed to water will die, and 100% of all serial killers and drug dealers have admitted to drinking water. Okay, so let's step back and think about this. If I'm wanting to frame a problem in a certain way, I could use some of these facts to make drinking water or being exposed to water as pretty dangerous. Okay, so just kind of step back, think about social problems and how we define and how we look at things. So let me pick another screen that I want to share now. And this is about the qualitative and the quantitative aspects of research. Because this is a science class, there is research, okay, involved. And when we're looking at qualitative and quantitative data, this is where we get the objective and the subjective aspects, okay? So qualitative data, that is the data that is information that can be can't be expressed as numbers. So it talks about its words, its objects, its pictures, its observations, its symbols. We can't count it. It's not numerical, but it's the subjective feelings, thoughts, concerns about a problem. So it really will be in the way that we define a problem as whether it's problematic or not, okay? If we go back to the pictures up here, the water, subjectively, some of those things could be kind of scary, right? However, if we took to the quantitative aspects of it, quantitative data is the data that can be expressed as numbers. It can be quantified. It is our statistics. Okay, so if we looked at the statistics of the number of people who actually drink water and consume water, we'll notice that maybe water is not what makes somebody a serial killer, okay? So just kind of stepping back and thinking about those things. Now, I am going to stress this right now because we are in a sociology class and we just mentioned, because picture, and then I just again mentioned serial killers. That is one thing that sociologists cannot really explain why serial killers exist. That is much more probably on the psychological standpoint, okay? So when we get into the crime chapter, which I'm pretty confident we will be working in the crime chapter, I feel like most of you did vote for that one. We won't really be talking about those types of crimes, okay? We'll be talking about other aspects of crime, okay? So in this class, we're talking about social problems. We're looking at them both qualitatively, subjectively, and quantitatively, objectively. We will also really be looking at the social movements that are involved in relationship to social problems, okay? We will be looking at society using a sociological imagination. When you were reading through the chapter, or if you haven't read, as you're reading through the chapter, you'll see some information from C. Wright Mills. The sociological imagination was this concept that C. Wright Mills talked about, really about our ability to make a connection between our individual problems, our individual issues, and the greater social concern. Okay, so this brings us back to the definition of a social problem. It's a social condition, event, or pattern of behavior that negatively affects the well-being of a significant number of people or a number of significant people in society. Okay, so sometimes a social problem is subjectively not a problem to you, okay? But that doesn't mean it isn't a problem, okay? So when we're using our sociological imagination, we're able to see how our personal decisions, our personal problems, our personal concerns are all kind of intertwined and ripple in and out of the social structure, okay? So just kind of keeping that in mind, what is a problem to me might not be a problem to you, but your problem could potentially impact me, okay? just like my problems could potentially impact you. One thing, and this is an extremely micro level piece of this, but consider just how easy it is for somebody's bad mood to change your mood, okay? Now, what could have caused their bad mood, right? We don't know, but it's a ripple, right? Their personal issue, their personal problem can impact the larger structure. But oftentimes, the stressors that are in our lives that may create those bad moods could be a result of something at the larger scale that's completely out of their control, okay? So just kind of stepping in and thinking about this, okay? We will also, all throughout the semester, be looking at theory, okay? Theory is an explanation, right? It's an attempt to explain what's going on. So when we're talking about sociological theory, we are really attempting to look at how our society or our social problems can be explained using these different perspectives, which are different lenses. Okay, so there's the three major paradigms. There is the structural functionalist perspective, which really ultimately is a macro level theory, which means it looks at the big scale structure of society. And it says that everything in society has a part, right? It plays a part, it has a function, it has a purpose, and that all of those aspects of society work together in order to create stability and harmony. Now, when it's looking at social problems, it's seeing that there's something is going on in the structure that has caused disharmony, okay? So what has to happen is that change has to take place in order to fix that instability, okay? So the functionalist perspective is continuously going to be looking at how society functions together and what makes it happen, right? What makes a problem and really is a dysfunction that has created the problem. And an aspect of society is going to have to come around and fix that, okay? So again, these are just brief, real quick kind of explanations. Conflict theory is also a macro level theory. This theory is, so at structural level, but this theory talks about not the stability in society, but the chaos, right? The conflict. And basically this theory, it really talks about how our society is full of inequality. And through inequality, there is conflict. There's this constant struggle for resources where functionalism says everything has a purpose and has a part. Conflict theory says is because of those purposes and those parts, some people are going to have more resources than others, and that creates this competition, okay? So this competition that exists allows some individuals to control others, okay? So there's going to always be conflict. And with this conflict, change must happen. But the only way change is going to happen is if those that are at the bottom, those that are suffering from the inequalities, those that are oppressed, recognize their oppression and push for change. Now, I'm going to talk about social movements. We're going to watch a quick little video about social movements. But social movements are oftentimes, if we look at it from a conflict perspective, they are taking place because the oppressed have said, I've had enough, and I am going to work with others to force change. Now, how does change take place? Not the oppressed individuals making the change, but the oppressors, okay? But the oppressors are only going to create the change because the oppressed are pushing for it. It's an important thing to kind of take in and understand, okay? And the last theory that this chapter will talk about, and all of the chapters will, is symbolic interactionism. This is a micro level theory that really talks about the symbols and meanings that exist in society. Don't overthink what is a symbol, okay, what a symbol is. Overthinking, now I want to say that because sometimes people get upset when I mention overthinking, but let me just tell you what overthinking is. You thought about it, you think you know what it was, and then you continue to think, and you think yourself out of understanding, okay? So that's overthinking, okay? Realistically, everything's a symbol, right? Letters are a symbol, words are a symbol, colors are a symbol, but they only have meaning because we've given that meaning to them. We then add those symbols together and create even more meaning. But the only reason they're meaningful to us is because we've interacted with it. Like little kids oftentimes will say, I don't like something. Like you give them something to eat for a dinner and maybe it's the first time they've ever had it. And they'll say, but I don't like this. But as a parent, the first thing you will say is, but you haven't tried it, right? They haven't interacted with it. And until they interact, they don't know what it really means, right? Okay, so through interaction, our meanings change, our meanings grow, our understanding of our social world will continue to change. Okay, so all symbolic interactionism is talking about is through interaction, we gain meanings of the various symbols that are around us. We then use those symbols and our meanings to interact. What I know today is not exactly the same as what I knew yesterday, but I will know tomorrow. Hello? Okay. But anyone can interact, right? We can all interact. Okay. And we can continue to add to our interactions. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to do is show a video. I'm going to share a video. And this is actually a song, but I feel like it's a really good song to help you with understanding social movements. Not a favorite song of mine, but it is a song that does have some meaning in relationship to social movement. So again, let me define what a social movement is. Collective efforts of people to realize change in order to solve or ameliorate social problems. Okay, so let me go ahead here. And pull up this video. Oops, I just lost my screen. I'm going to share the application screen. This audio. Okay, so I'm going to turn this song on and then I'm going to come back and I just want you, while you're listening to the song, think about what's it showing. Okay, so social movements in the government, along with individuals, groups, and communities can attempt to address many of our various social problems. Okay, so again, a social movement is a collective, organized attempt to make change, to resist change to the social order, or to make change to the social order. Okay, and social movements can be radical, they can be reformatory, they can be revolutionary, instrumental, expressive. There are various ways that we can look at them, okay? But their intention, there's a scope of the scope of intended change, and then how much change is intended. Are we wanting to do it in an expressive way or an instrumental way? Are we wanting there to be revolutionary or reformatory change, or do we want limited or radical change? Okay, so here I go. I'm going to go ahead and share this screen. Let me pull it up. I'm going to full screen it here and play this for you real quick. Sorry, I was muted. Okay, so what I wanted to share with that video is this is just a way that we can kind of see an expression of, you know, his whole idea is waiting on the world to change. So in many ways, we could kind of think about, what is he really saying? There are many, many people who are just waiting, right? We're just waiting. But if you paid attention to some of the artwork that was being drawn, right? You know, some people would call it graffiti. It's all about our symbolic understanding, okay? But what I want us to understand is some of the things that were being written, right, were exploited and things like that, right? So the reality is that this video, okay, was really kind of talking about, this whole music video is about change, right? And when we talk about change, there are different ways. Social movements can be expressive or instrumental. So what is expressive? Creating a message, right? Being expressive, emotional. Okay, instrumental is, creating like a plan, right? If we're talking about strategic ideas, we're going to do this, 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 and this, right? About getting the job done. So expressive is about changing the way we see, we understand, and we feel about something. Where instrumental is actually making that change happen, right? Okay. But if we talk about how is the change taking place, it can be revolutionary or reformatory, or it can be very limited, or it can be radical. Okay. So when we talk about revolutionary and radical, they kind of go hand in hand. Reformatory and limited, those can go hand in hand. Some social movements that we all really know, right, off the top of our head, is the civil rights movement. And a lot of people want to kind of think about that movement, that social movement, as being a revolutionary, instrumental change. Okay. And while it did have some instrumental change, a lot of it came back to expressive change, right? The way we believe and understand about equality. But was it revolutionary? Was it a radical change? Or was it more reformatory or limited? Okay, this is something that I challenge you to really kind of think about. At the time, it may have felt like radical change, but really, didn't we just change a few policies? Was the world, was the world as we knew it in the 60s, which none of us were alive during the civil rights movement? Everybody in this classroom, I'm sure I'm probably the oldest, and I was not alive during the civil rights movement. But we've all grown up in a time frame in which it was post-civil rights, right? But was the change radical? Did it totally flip the society and change it, the structure, or did it just create reforms? Okay, so this is, kind of in a nutshell, my briefness of chapter 1. Maybe not as brief as I intended, but I hope that this video will help. I'm going to post it in the module, and I'm, of course, open for any questions. All right, have a great day.